Alexander Grant was the kind of man whose name echoed through the city, a billionaire with power, status, and everything money could buy, yet his life was a cold, empty mansion filled with silence. Years ago, he lost his wife during childbirth, and the baby he had longed for was declared stillborn. That night shattered him completely. He buried himself in work, building an empire of glass towers and wealth, convincing himself that feelings were a weakness and love was a distraction. To the world, he was a symbol of success. To himself, he was a man with nothing left to lose. One evening, during a high-profile charity gala, Alexander suddenly clutched his chest and collapsed in front of hundreds of shocked guests. The lights, the music, the laughter, all turned to chaos as paramedics rushed him to the hospital. Doctors soon discovered that his life hung by a thread. He needed an urgent blood transfusion, but his blood type was extremely rare. Despite the hospital's frantic search, no suitable donor could be found. Minutes felt like hours, and his pulse began to fade. Just when the doctors were losing hope, a nurse burst into the room and said, "We found a match, but it's a little girl." Everyone was stunned. The girl's parents stood outside the emergency ward, their eyes full of tears, watching as their brave 7-year-old daughter said softly, "Please, let me help him. He shouldn't die." She didn't even know who the man was, she just wanted to save a life. The doctor hesitated, worried about the risk, but the girl's determination melted his doubt. Within minutes, the transfusion began. Her tiny arm connected to his, her blood flowing through the tubes, giving life to a man who had forgotten what love and sacrifice meant. Hours later, Alexander opened his eyes. The room was dim, and he felt weak, confused, but alive. The doctor explained that a young girl had saved him. Shocked, Alexander insisted on meeting her. When the nurse brought her in, the sight hit him harder than any pain he'd ever felt, a small, bright-eyed girl with curly hair and a gentle smile. She looked up at him and said, "Hi, mister. I hope you feel better." Something in her voice tugged at his heart. He didn't know why, but he felt an unexplainable warmth. He thanked her and her parents, insisting on rewarding them, but the girl's mother politely refused. "We don't need money, sir. We're just glad you're okay." As they left, Alexander's eyes lingered on the child. Her features, her eyes, her smile, stirred memories buried deep inside. Later that night, unable to shake the feeling, he asked his private investigator to look into the family's background. What the report revealed days later left him trembling. The little girl's mother, Lily Carter, had once worked at his company years ago. She had resigned suddenly after his wife's death, the same week the hospital had told him his newborn had died. Heart-pounding, Alexander arranged to meet Lily privately. At first, she refused, but when she finally agreed, her eyes were filled with tears before he even spoke. "You already know, don't you?" she whispered. "I tried to protect her. The hospital made a mistake. They told you your baby died, but she was still alive. I didn't plan to hide it forever, but when you shut yourself off from everyone, I was afraid you wouldn't believe me." Alexander's world stopped spinning. "You mean, that little girl is my daughter?" His voice cracked as years of grief poured out in a single tear. Lily nodded, her hands trembling. "Her name is Emma. She's your blood, literally and truly." For the first time in years, Alexander felt the ice around his heart melt. Every sleepless night, every lonely victory, suddenly made sense. The universe had played the cruelest and kindest trick. The child who had saved his life was the very child he thought he had lost. He rushed to see Emma again. When she saw him, she ran up and hugged him tightly, as if her little soul already knew the truth her mother hadn't told her. He knelt down, tears falling freely, whispering, "You saved me, sweetheart, in more ways than one." From that day, Alexander's life changed. He no longer cared for board meetings or stock prices, he cared about school recitals, bedtime stories, and holding his daughter's hand. The mansion that once echoed with emptiness now filled with laughter and warmth. He even helped rebuild the hospital that had made the tragic error, turning it into a foundation for saving children's lives, in Emma's name. Years later, in an interview, Alexander was asked what the most valuable thing he ever gained was. He smiled softly and said, "It wasn't my fortune, it was my second chance, given by the purest heart of a little girl who turned out to be my daughter." Forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.